And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Assembly Call. As tonight, your Indiana Hoosiers drop 113 points on the Penn State Nittany Lions, winning 113-72. This win brings the Hoosiers to 8-2 on the season and 1-1 in the Big Ten. And we'll get to this in our banner moment, certainly, but this night was defined in large part by the play of Lamar Wilkerson, who ends up setting a Assembly Hall record with 44 points, an IU single game record with 10 3-pointers, and did all of that in just 23 or 24 minutes, depending upon whether you look at the box score or the broadcast. And certainly he led the way, but a really strong offensive performance from the Hoosiers tonight, who jumped on Penn State early after giving up the first basket of the game and never trailed from that point forward. So a good bounce back game for IU after a couple of losses. And so we'll break it down for you. I'm Andy Bottoms. I'm here with Ryan Phillips, and we will, like I said, we'll break this all down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And we will start this show the way we start every show, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And, I guess the banner moment could just have been the fact that Lamar Wilkerson set the tone early by making IU missed a three on their first possession, and then Wilkerson hit threes on each of the next three possessions. And that pretty much set the tone for what he was going to provide over the course of the game. Ends up breaking the record on a kick, the 3-point record on a kick out three, and set the Assembly Hall record by getting to the free throw line for the first time. Steve Smith was kind of joking on the broadcast that was the only place they'd not seen him score from. So I guess maybe fitting for him that's where he broke the record. But obviously a tremendous performance from him. The way he shot the ball, he ended up 10 of 15 from 3, 16 of 22 from the floor. And really, as Smith mentioned, he goes, there really weren't very many of those that were like kind of heat check, hunting shot kind of things. There was a couple when he was pretty gassed early in the second half when he started to get hot again. But generally, thought he was willing to find teammates. I mean, even in the first half, he had made 3 in a row, and the very next possession, he probably could have taken another one if he wanted to, kicked it to counterway. So he ends up with 4 assists and 4 rebounds as well. But just when Lamar Wilkerson signed with IU and they got him out of the portal, I don't know that you were expecting this exactly, but the things that he had on display tonight were good for him to see. I know he hadn't shot the ball as well, and they even talked about in the broadcast that DeVries had said some big games were coming. So he must have known something. But take your pick, any of the 10 threes or the buckets that Lamar Wilkerson made tonight, and those can be our banner moment, but certainly a banner night for Lamar. As Ryan and I talked about before we got started, we'll take there will be no intrigue about who will get the game ball from tonight's game, but well-deserved nonetheless. So we'll get to that later. But our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their 10th season sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their 4th as a presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. As you know, Home Field has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you will find anywhere. And with IU as their flagship school, more high-quality gear with unique IU logos from the past is always right around the corner. They've done a lot of things from the past, and the present has been pretty damn good as well for Home Field. So they had shirts leading into the Big Ten championship game, Big Ten championship shirts, college football playoff shirts, anything you need to celebrate the football Hoosiers. They're coming out with new stuff all the time, and I have a feeling they're probably not done yet. So make sure that you sign up for their email and text alerts so you know when those are coming out. And again, whether it's for the Hoosier fan in your life or somebody who likes a different school, a great time to do your Christmas shopping. Probably need to get on that. I know they've been inundated with orders, so make sure that you get out there, do your shopping at Home Field, and go from there. And if you have not ordered from them, you can use the promo code HOME23 to get 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME23 for 15% off at homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, now it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And tonight, so far, that is just Ryan. Jerod may join us. Coach was at the game, got to see the Fernando Mendoza press conference. I think was going to the postgame presser, but was going to hit the road back to Delphi. So we'll have to wait and get his thoughts on this one later. But Ryan, certainly not anything to rant about tonight, but opening thoughts on the 41-point win for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, this team had back-to-back 9-point losses that I think that as a fan base, many people felt like were much worse than a 9-point loss. I mean, Louisville certainly felt like a 15-point loss that they kind of made look nice late thanks to some Nick Dorn sharpshooting. But, the road loss to Minnesota, it was a 9-point game, probably feels more like about a 5-point game than the free throw stretched it out, but it's not a game you feel like you should lose. And the Louisville game, it felt like they were outclassed. They needed a get-right game, and that's what they got tonight. I mean, they were up, 32, I think, at halftime, and just everything was clicking. I mean, we're going to talk about Lamar Wilkerson for an extended period of time as befits his performance. But across the board, they played really well on both ends of the floor. I know they gave up 72 points to Penn State, but, factor in the fact that they also won by 40-something and had guys out at about the 5-minute mark. In a game like this, that gets stretched out. To give you an example of how impressive this was, they jumped all the way to number 21 in KenPom with the win after back-to-back losses that kind of sunk them down a little bit. I just think across the board, the difference in this game was they played with confidence that they were the better team and that they could hang physically with the other team, which is not what we saw the last two games. There was none of this on the perimeter, have the ball, lean away because you're afraid you're going to lose it, go into the paint and kind of try and, throw something over somebody instead of trying to go through them and get it to the rim. This was a different mindset. They were attacking, and from the get-go, the passing was crisper, the movement was crisper. Everybody was sharing the ball. The ball did not stop. I mean, it very rarely. The only times it ever stopped is when they were really trying to feed it to Lamar Wilkerson to get him some points. But that was more, by design than anything else. But I just think that it was such an encouraging performance. And for those wondering what Darren DeVries' system is going to be eventually, I do think that they will eventually have a more versatile post player who can play more inside, also step out and take some shots. And I think eventually the one thing they really need is a very good driving guard to set the action for the offense, and somebody who can consistently get by his man and make trouble for the defense. Those two things I think they will have in the future. But you watch the movement tonight, the hitting, the way they hit threes, the way that they broke down the defense after the ball movement kept going, the back cutting. That's what the system is supposed to do. I think it was easy to forget that during those last two performances. This is the kind of game they're going to play, and this is what the future of Indiana basketball is going to be. Now, it was at its pinnacle tonight. Don't expect this every game, but that's the kind of offense they are going to play. And I thought you saw just what the potential for this system is at Indiana tonight.
Yeah, I think they, to your point, came out with some confidence, got off to a good start. Obviously, hard to get off to a worse start than they did in the Louisville game, but really, after giving up that first basket tonight, they hit 4 threes on 4 straight possessions right after that. And so you jump on him, you start the game with some confidence, you get the crowd into the game. I thought the defensive effort, really, for the most part, was really good and forced a Penn State team that came into the game. I think they were ranked second in turnover percentage offensively coming into the game. I don't know what they are now. I haven't refreshed it, but they had 10 turnovers by the end of the first half, I think, or very close to that. I guess they had 8 in the first half. No, I cannot read. They had 11 in the first half and 14 for the game. But they, really, really rattled them as well. I think a little bit easier to do against a younger team who was not as experienced in Big Ten basketball and just generally wasn't, they were physical in some spots. I thought they played through that certainly better in this game, but a confidence builder in what this team needed to get back on track heading into the Kentucky game on Saturday. And so as we move into our 40 minutes from Bloomington, talking first half, it really was that start. And as I mentioned, Wilkerson hits, DeVries misses a 3 on the first possession, then Wilkerson hits 3 in a row. Connerway makes one on an assist. And then there was a stretch of, I think 6 or 7 possessions where they didn't score. Yeah, they didn't score at all. It was 6 straight possessions. They didn't score at all. And then they scored 46 points over the next 25 possessions. Like, only didn't score out of 25 possessions, I think 4 times in that stretch. And it was a mix of Wilkerson, Reed Bailey got a couple dunks. Connerway hit another three. Connerway drove to the basket. It just really got everything going at that point in the half, and really is where they extended the lead. But that really started with being able to get off to that good start with Wilkerson. I thought they used, I know Coach was posting some of this from the Twitter account, and was even texting some of it to us, just running different actions to be able to get Wilkerson open shots, and using DeVries as a screener, using Wilkerson as a screener. And so thought they were creative a little bit and were able to get into offense in a better way. I think Coach, again, he had posted about that before, is just that if they can get into something quicker, then it's there. But what was happening against Minnesota was, in particular, is you get kind of bogged down a little bit for the first 10 seconds. You're not really doing anything, and then you're not really able to break things down a little bit. So, what did you see, Ryan, offensively, other than tremendous shot making, but strategically, maybe what stood out to you as you think back to the first half?
It just looked like they had a much better plan than they have the last two games, and that they always knew. I mean, an offense like DeVries has about 3 options for a pass on every play, depending on what the defense does. But it's felt like they knew where they were going every single time. I mean, and the ball movement was the thing. They had 23 made field goals. They assisted on 16 of them. Connerway had 6 assists. Tucker had 5. Enright had 3. I mean, the ball was moving, and they were playing for other people, which I think that sometimes when your offense gets bogged down, you wind up defaulting a little bit to one-on-one, and you end up looking at a guy like DeVries and say, like, okay, go make a play. And he's not super athletic. He's going to make his play by being sneaky without the ball and getting open that way, or maybe taking a screen. But you expect him to shake an athletic defender and get a great shot, you're going to be waiting around for a long time. And so I think that they were able to get ball movement, to get movement off the ball, to create these openings and create better shots. And then once Wilkerson got going, Penn State had to overplay him, which opened up the whole floor for everybody else. But you're right, getting off to that great start, especially against a young team like Penn State, who I think has some real talent. Mingo's a really talented guy. I think he's going to be a really good player who we're going to hate seeing in the future. But I think that you get them down and you get them discouraged about themselves, and then they're chasing the game. Then they're forcing it, and that allows you to take advantage of turnovers, to take advantage of mistakes on defense. You get a young team sort of, like I said, chasing the game. That's exactly where you want to be, especially if you have a group of veterans who are willing to give the ball up and aren't playing, for individual statistics. And that playing not for individual statistics, you'll see all the stats were great in the first half for individual guys. I mean, Reed Bailey, I thought, had his best stretch of the season at one point, just moving without the ball and getting open, and they were finding him underneath for dunks, for layups, for everything. And he went to line, made some free throws. I think that it was just a lot of movement from everybody, and it looked like a connected team, and it looked like they've been disconnected the last 2 games. These guys were all on the same page tonight.
Yeah, I think I want to get back to what you said about Bailey in a second. Just to kind of touch a little bit on Wilkerson. He had those threes. Then there was a stretch in the middle of the half when he scored a bunch of points that were more on drives and layups, and I think he scored maybe trying to do math on the fly here, always dangerous. 11 straight points at one point, and 8 of those were inside. And so that's one area that he has struggled with at times, of being able to finish inside. I thought he did a better job of that, was more effective there really in both halves. And part of that, as you said, was he makes a few threes. They really extend the defense. It opens up more room for him cutting. It opened room for Bailey to slip to the basket and things like that. So I think it was not just, the 3-point shooting from Wilkerson was tremendous.
That's the headline.
But he also
everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. But he also got a ton of stuff done, off the ball as well. And so I thought that was that was impressive. And to touch on Bailey, it was interesting. DeVries made a change to the starting lineup, moved Alexis in. I think I saw somebody post he just wanted to get some energy in at the beginning of the game. And I think after a couple of these slower starts, certainly the slow start in the Louisville game, there was some I see where the thought process was coming in, but actually it was Bailey who really responded, and Alexis didn't end up scoring on the night, but Bailey came in even in the first half alone and got 13 points, made all 4 from the field, made 5 free throws, was just more active, more physical, even on the defensive end, really kind of walled up, tried to make it tough for Penn State to score. And this is kind of like you put this with whatever happened at halftime of the Kansas State game and things like that. He does seem to be a guy who responds a bit to, challenges from the coaching staff and things like that. And maybe that wasn't the motivation to have him come off the bench, but I thought he really responded well, got back to some of the things that he was doing and really playing off other guys and being able to slip to the basket, move without the ball. Had a nice, I think it was toward the end of the half where, could have taken a three, passed it up, took a dribble, got to the basket, got fouled and got an and one. So I thought a really good bounce back performance from him as well. And I think if they can find ways to get him and Alexis going at the same time, they will, can at least answer some of the questions that there have been about the front court. But Jerod has joined us, and Jerod, you missed at least the beginning of the Lamar Wilkerson love fest. So I'll give you a chance to go back and share your thoughts on a double record-breaking performance from Wilkerson tonight.
Well, I have to say, I'm going to have to go back and watch the replay of this because I missed about the last 30 minutes of the game. So I'm really here mostly for moral support and, just to celebrate a big victory with you guys. But it was great. I mean, I was watching the beginning of the game when he just came out on fire. And it just this game just kind of felt like one to me, after the last couple where it felt like such a slog and we had struggled, that we would come out and really play well. And we did, and really responded well at home. Obviously seeing, veterans like, Wilkerson bounce back like he did, and then everybody kind of rallying around him, and just delivering an incredible performance. So I obviously don't have a ton of analysis since I haven't had a chance to watch the game, but this is going to be a fun one as soon as the show ends to go back and watch and relive. And just
we'll
watch
spoil some
all
things
these
for you.
shots.
I'm sorry. We're
What'd
going to spoil some things for you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, the just seeing the box score, like as soon as I got my son to sleep and then I saw all your guys' text messages, and I'm like, okay, something pretty great must have happened. But I will say, the thing I was thinking though is obviously those last two losses were concerning. Losing at Minnesota just because Minnesota is not that great, even though a Big Ten road loss is not the worst thing in the world, and then you lose to Louisville, because you fall down 16-0 and just can't ever quite get out of that hole. And then you look at this win and you look at the win over Kansas State and you kind of look at this 5-game stretch. It's kind of what we expected from this group to a certain extent. Maybe not losing to a team like Minnesota, but just some ups and downs. If the shots aren't falling and the offense gets into a slog a little bit, we're going to struggle, because we do have, some of the weaknesses on the interior that we've talked about and yada, yada. So it was nice to see them bounce back with a win like this, because I think it restores the confidence that we had built in this team early on. And now we can, obviously go forward into this weekend's game, which is, going to be a lot of fun against Kentucky. But it's just a reminder that this team's going to have some highs. They're going to have some lows. But, man, when the offense is clicking, they can score like no team that we've seen since 2016. And that's going to allow us to compete in a lot of games. And so that to me was the most encouraging thing about tonight, even without watching it, most of it, just looking at the box score. It's like that reminds us what this team can be when it's really clicking.
Yeah, Jerod, I think the thing is that this team can shoot and they're going to shoot. The problem is finding the answers when the shots aren't falling. And they hadn't had to do that yet. And so I think that's where the struggle was against Louisville and against Minnesota is, okay, we're not getting enough room to make these threes. Where does the offense come from? Where do we get the offense? And tonight it was a lot. We talked before you got on, a lot more movement, a lot of, passing, connected passing, those things. And they were just as likely to get a backdoor cut layup as they were to hit a three. I mean, not really, because thanks to Lamar Wilkerson, but those options were there. And I think that's the key is this offense is built from the perimeter in, not the other way around. And so when the perimeter isn't getting you all the points you need it to, where do you go? And so you have to create that offense using your perimeter guys, because you don't have a Trace Jackson Davis. So how do you do that? And I think tonight was the example of okay, here's how you can do that. Now let's carry that through against better teams. But I did have a quick trivia question for you. Is Lamar Wilkerson's 10 threes, broke the record, single game record. Can you name the three guys who were tied with 9?
Matt Roth.
I was going to say,
Rod Wilmot.
Yes.
Robert Johnson.
Yeah, I was going to say Andy should get this one.
I was like, no, I knew it. I had seen it online, so I was going to see
okay.
I was going to let Jerod go.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah, that's the thing is this team is going to, when this team can knock down shots and get open shots, going to be great all year. How do they respond when they can't get the shots that they want? And it's not like they're ever going to have a drought where they hit no threes in a game. Well, knock on wood, but it's what do you do to get the other points that you need? And I think that tonight that was what was encouraging.
Yeah, I think the other guys, we kind of wrap up the first half analysis that is worth mentioning is Tate and Conaway. He ends up, everybody was overshadowed by Wilkerson, but in that first half, Conaway was able to play 18 minutes. He had 12 points, 6 assists, 6 of those 16 assists that you mentioned, Ryan, and really was intense defensively as we've come to expect from him. And I think he just continues to get more and more comfortable. I know, as we've talked about, you're going to have to live with some of the turnovers and things like that he may make, but I think he's getting more comfortable picking his spots, driving versus distributing, and those kinds of things. And so I think you've seen growth in him, growing into not the role that he had on his prior team, and trying to figure that out. I think that's what you'll see from a lot of these guys as you go forward. I think Nick Dorn had some of those moments tonight where did some things driving to the basket, not settling for threes, not feeling like he was forcing things to try to make up for lost time, which I think he's, a couple of those early games, it felt like he was doing. But maybe the end of that Louisville game where he hits those threes and whatever has given him an additional level of comfort. So I think he looks more and more comfortable, but Conaway just continues to be really impressive and such an important guy. And as you head into some of these tougher games, you're going to need some flavor of that performance from him. He ends up with 5 more in the second half, and but only played 8 minutes in the second half as other guys got a chance. But I thought another really good start from him, Ryan, and a guy that continues to, like I said, kind of grow into things and seems to play better and better each time out.
Yeah, he's an impressive guy on both ends of the floor, and he's an energy guy on both ends of the floor, but he's talented enough where you don't think of him as an energy guy, and he does enough for you, and he fills up the stat sheet enough that you don't think of him as just, that's what he gives. But he really is, I think he's the point of attack defender, and he's going to be the guy who brings the ball up the floor. And so along with Enright. And so he's vitally important to this team, as important as, Wilkerson and DeVries, because of what he has defensively. And so I think that seeing him tonight, I thought he really looked like, and I thought he was, did something, he tried to do, he did the best he could against Louisville. He was just outmatched. And I think that as he gets more comfortable in the offense, gets used to it, I think that he's going to be able to look more like he did tonight than he has the last couple games. And so we'll see. And again, they got a challenge against Kentucky on Saturday. So we'll see how they carry it through. It's another one of those athletic, teams that, if you look at recruiting rankings, is much more talented than them, but how do they carry that through? And I think hopefully this was a confidence builder, not only just for him, but for the rest of the guys as well, that they can hang.
Yeah. And as you look to the second half, the game was not in doubt at that point. IU did get off to a good start there. To your point, IU gave up a ton of points late. I think there was one stretch where Penn State scored at least a point on 11 straight possessions where things were just kind of not really ragged even, but IU's playing some of the bench guys. I think Penn State slid some of the starters in, which I think with a young team makes sense for them to do. So I think that the overall numbers defensively don't look as good late, but I thought they came out of the locker room, again, an easy game to come out. You're up 32 points at halftime. What are you going to do? But they get stops on the first couple of possessions. Conaway gets a layup. Wilkerson makes a 3. You have an empty trip, but then Wilkerson makes another 3. Conaway gets an and 1. DeVries makes a 3. Just really kind of jumped on. Not that there was a chance they would come back, but really continued to set the tone in the same way they did in the first half, which I thought was important to see, not for the outcome of the game per se, but just from a mentality standpoint. Forced a bunch of turnovers, 3 straight turnovers. They forced at one point early in the half. And so, really just carried it over. But quite honestly, the second half was all about Wilkerson. As you look at his, just his second half stat line, 24 points, was 8 of 11 from the field, 6 of 9 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line, had 3 assists, 2 rebounds, a steal, and did all that in 13 minutes.
Insane.
He was just, and they were running stuff for him because I think they knew he was, where he was getting. But like I said, I thought there was the one stretch where he kind of shot threes 2 possessions in a row. I know Steve Smith joked the one time he wasn't sure he really even had turned and got his head to the basket coming off the screen, but he knew where he was. He knew what he needed to do. But kick out from Enright for the one that gave him his 10th three. Unselfish play, 1 of 5 assists for Enright in the second half. But yeah, to me, the biggest takeaways from the second half was Wilkerson, and I guess to a lesser extent, Nick Dorn ended up with 10 points that half. And like I said, just did most of his damage off the dribble in that half and continues to look more comfortable. But, Ryan, anything stood out from the second half for you other than being on record watch with Wilkerson?
Well, my favorite moment of that situation, of that whole scenario, was Wilkerson started to get hot in the second half again. He came out of the half hot. They even mentioned that. They're like, the locker room didn't cool him down. And it was 16:51 left. Connerway had a drive where he kind of muscled his way in, scored, and got one. And as he was driving, Wilkerson got a screen and came behind him and was screaming, T.
You could hear him. You could hear him on the broadcast.
And then but Connerway had the lane and he went up and forced his way through. And you could see when he made the layup, instead of being like, all right, Wilkerson was kind of like, oh man, because he knew he was going to make it and there was nobody around him. And then he kind of got it together and went over and patted his guy on the butt. But it was, you could hear him screaming for the ball because he was so hot. He knew that he was going to make that shot. So, but good for Tatum Connerway for finishing. But I think everybody's a little disappointed. Every time Wilkerson was open, they didn't get the ball. You could hear the crowd calling for it. So, I think that it's just, he was unconscious. He was absolutely unconscious. I mean, to do that, if you look at the full game line, he was, he had 44 points in 24 minutes. 24 minutes. I mean, if
That's
he played.
amazing.
He played 30. He's getting 56. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm glad they were able to get him the record and get him out and rest him up for Kentucky. I mean, that's what you want to do. But I think what really stood out to me, you could see in the second half, Tucker DeVries was trying to find some space and get himself on track a little bit. And he did hit 2 of 3. He made 2 of 3 threes. He only took 3 shots. So he was being unselfish, but I think there were some possessions where you could see him trying to find some space to just start to feel comfortable again, and never really got loose. But I think that he was more in the rhythm of the game than he has been the last 2. So that stood out to me, was him clearly doing that. And yeah, Nick Dorn, as you mentioned, not a one-note player. And I mean, if you look at his numbers from Elon, he wasn't just a 3-point shooter. He was a scorer. And so I think he's going to be valuable. And I've mentioned that since he came back, I think that he's going to be very valuable for Indiana because they're going to need bench points coming up. And Reed Bailey provided some tonight, and so did Nick Dorn. And I think that's really huge moving forward to get that. And then, Alexa Ristich hit the 3 late, but also committed, I think it was 3 fouls in 7 minutes. So let's welcome to college basketball, but let's calm down on that.
Well, and Dorn now 3 of his last 4 games in double digits.
Yep.
And the nice thing about Dorn is he's got a little bit off the bounce, which obviously is one of the weaknesses that this team has, is just the ability to attack off the bounce. Connerway can do it. If you can get Dorn off the bench to be a guy that can come in, and give you 10, 12 points like that, who can shoot and drive, that's a nice piece for Darren DeVries to be able to, kind of mix and match, in some of the matchups you're going to have in the Big Ten. So that to me is a really big development these last few games.
Yeah, and his 3-point shooting is going to make it so they have to overplay that, which is going to give him driving lanes. And they also now, the flip side is, if he starts proving he can drive, they're going to have to respect that, which will give him more room on his shot. So it's,
so he's unstoppable, basically, is what.
Oh yeah, he's an unstoppable player, and he's going to take us to a national championship. No, but it opens up multiple possibilities and makes him that much harder to guard when he's showing this on film that he can get to the rim. And so I agree with you. I think that his development and his health is going to be key moving forward, because they need more depth. They just don't have enough guys right now who are able to contribute because of injuries, and so they're going to have to continue to get healthy and get those guys, once they get healthy, get them into the rotation.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap us up for segment 1. And when we come back, we'll continue our breakdown of IU's 113-72 victory over Penn State. We'll point out our Hall of the Moment from today's game and share a few stat sheet stories as well. You're listening to Assembly Call. Stick with us. Jerod, I don't have the music or anything, so if you wish to play it, you're welcome to. But if you don't, that's fine too. But if you,
well, don't worry about it for this segment.
I did not want you to think that we're like something was playing and you weren't hearing it somehow or anything like that. So,
well, here, let me get some segment 2 intros happening here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Tell me if you can hear this.
This is Ethan Happ, and I never listen to the assembly call, especially the episodes that Ryan is on.
Does anybody even get that reference anymore? That's like from 5 or 6 years ago.
If that, I mean, more than that,
knows?
right?
Yeah, maybe so.
One of Big Ten basketball's greatest travelers of all time. How could we forget? Anyway, all right. Welcome back to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. I'm Andy Bottoms here with Ryan Phillips and Jerod Morris, and we are breaking down IU's 113-72 victory over Penn State. Now time for today's Hall of a Moment to talk about some key moments that made a difference in the game. Ryan, any short of any shot that Lamar Wilkerson took, anything stand out there?
Well, for me, it was just the start. I mean, it was all the start, and I know that we've talked about that, so it's not really like something anybody missed, but just coming out hot like that and hitting a couple threes, and just not only as I said, did it put Penn State on their heels, but it settled them down. It settled Indiana down too. After some really tough performances, I think that just being able to do that. But also I thought that, in the second half, it's 58-26, I think it was at halftime. You're up by a ton. Big tendency to go into the locker room, feel really happy about yourself, and then come out flat and just kind of coast to a win. But Tate Connerway came out, Lamar Wilkerson grabbed a rebound on the first possession. They stopped, Penn State from scoring, and then Connerway made got an assist got a pass from Wilkerson, and he made a layup. Just real quick, get out, get on the board, show that you're gonna take this seriously. And then on the next possession, Wilkerson hit a three, and then that they were kind of off to the races. And so I think that it was the way they started that second half that really just put it in. Okay, we're good. Let's just finish this out. We'll go through and do what we need to do and take care of business. Because there are times, I mean, if you just fall asleep in the second half, I mean, Penn State's young, but they're talented. They could get within 15 and then make you feel nervous. And then you got to leave the starters in to finish it and all of that. And they just really quickly established that was not going to be the case. And I think that's a veteran team stepping up and knowing what it has to do and following through.
Yeah, I think along the same lines, I think Connerway, we touched on him in the other part. I just think he's, his aggressiveness. There was another one that he missed inside, and there ended up being a goaltend on Alexis that Connerway was trying to tip back in. So that was one of the only empty possessions toward the beginning of the second half. But he had the drive you talked about to start the scoring. You had the one where he didn't pass it to Wilkerson. It was aggressive there. But also in the first half, I talked about really the only time the offense struggled at any point in this game was they had those 6 straight empty trips after getting off to a really hot start. And it was a Connerway 3-pointer that, kind of got them back into a rhythm. He does that. Then you've got Reed Bailey gets dunks on 2 straight possessions on some nice cuts. And so it was, for as much as Wilkerson was huge in the game, there were moments when other guys really stepped up to make aggressive plays. And I think that was kind of the difference in Bailey, with aggressiveness of the cuts, a little bit more aggressive and physical defensively. And I think when I think about some of these last couple games, what some of the issues have been is that, yeah, there's been motion. And this is particularly in the Minnesota game. It was movement, but it wasn't like the hard cutting that we saw. It wasn't really generating anything. And so I think you saw that tonight some from, DeVries had a couple backdoors that he had. Sisley continues to be a good cutter. Wilkerson scored some points that way. So, I think those kinds of things are what this team is going to have to do to overcome some of the maybe physical or athletic limitations that they have, is be able to cut really hard, because they do have the guys on nights like this that really make it easy to spread the floor. But in order to take advantage of that without a ton of guys who can beat you one-on-one, you've got to use the cutting and use the space in that way to really make things happen. And I think both Connerway driving and Bailey on some of those cuts were ways that they were able to do that tonight.
Yeah, and even as much as you saw it on the offensive end, Andy, early, I really thought, I mean, just from what I was able to watch of the game, for those first 10 minutes, you really saw the energy and the connectedness on defense. And I thought especially like attacking rebounds, which isn't something that this team has always done this year. There's one that stuck out, for me right when Reed Bailey got in. He had the cuts on the offensive end, the nice dunks, but he really went after a rebound that made me think, dang, I haven't seen him like attack a rebound like that very often. So it just seemed like a team. And, did Lamar Wilkerson stepping out and hitting 3 straight threes and you've got 12 points before the first media timeout, kind of get everybody going? Or was it the energy that helped you create the made shots? I think it was just all of it working together, and that's, I will also point out another moment from our group text thread at 6:47 p.m. when I texted gut feeling, we shoot the lights out and kick their ass tonight. So
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Every now and then the Jerod Morris gut feelings come through. But what's encouraging about that is I think one of the problems that I really had with the last couple seasons of the last regime was really kind of feeling disconnected from the team. Like he just didn't kind of have any feeling for what was going to happen. And like I said earlier, this just felt like a game where we were going to come out and play really well and respond. And we did, and there were just so many things visibly watching it where you're like, oh yeah, that reminds me of how they were playing earlier this season. And that I think that this team's going to have to do that because they've got to make up for some of these deficiencies somehow. And you do it by being connected. You do it by playing with energy. And a lot of times that leads to making shots and leads to confidence. So I'm as inclined to think that it was the hot shooting that got him going. I'm as inclined to think that it was the energy and the connectedness and the purpose they played with that helped make those shots go in. And that to me is what really was encouraging, watching it early on.
Yeah, I think defensively they did, to your point, come out with some intensity. They did a great job fighting through tons of screens, and they're getting pretty, drew multiple offensive fouls trying to just fight through screens on these dribble handoffs and things like that. I think
that's becoming a pattern.
That was not just one guy. It wasn't like, Enright, I think, is a guy people think of in a lot of ways about doing that. But I think Dorn got one called on somebody. Conaway was really aggressive defensively. And like I said before, one of the things that Penn State did the best coming into the game on the offensive end was not turning the ball over and to turn it over 11 times in the first half and just really sped them up, I felt like, especially as the shots started to fall. Penn State would rush and take shots. They had really long their possession length for them defensively. Like they really wanted to kind of slow the game down. And I think that was kind of why they would give that token pressure a little bit, trying to bring it up. But IU definitely got them to play a little bit faster than they wanted to in those stretches. I think the defensive intensity was certainly a part of that. All right, well, let's transition to stats. We'll go inside the numbers, and this segment is brought to you by our friends at Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. If you live in Bloomington or the surrounding areas and you want your taxes done right, contact our friend and Chat Mob Hall of Famer Megan Mahaffey and her team in Bloomington, Bedford, and Martinsville by calling 812-339-3334 or visiting jacksonhewitt.com. And fitting as well today to wish her mom Libby a happy birthday. So hope she is doing well and certainly got an enjoyable and stress-free IU game as a gift. So that's always it's always appreciated, I feel like. So Ryan, I'll throw it to you first for stats. Lots of really good numbers to take your pick. So I'll let you have the first crack at it.
Yeah, I think that I'll just take the shooting numbers because they're the most obvious. 68.9% from the field for the game, not for a 3-minute segment, the game. And then they hit 54.8% from three, 17 of 31. We used to go weeks without taking 17 three-pointers, let alone hitting them in one game. So I think that's the big one for me. And the one more thing I'll point out, because I think this will get lost as we start talking about Lamar and some of the other things, 38 bench points tonight, which with Dorn, obviously Sisley, Bailey coming off the bench. And speaking of Sisley, we're probably not going to get to him tonight, but I thought he played a really good game. He only had 4 points, but he had 8 rebounds. He was really mixing it up on defense. He was, around the ball, off the boards. Thought he had a really good game, despite only scoring 4 points. So those are the ones I got. And I guess one last note is layups 15 and 19. That was something they really struggled with against Minnesota, and Louisville was getting those layups to go.
Yeah, I just did the math here. IU was 25 of 31 on 2-pointers. So they missed 6 2-point shots the entire game, 81%. So that seems
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Seems pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So they had that. Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, yeah, a couple other stats that I wonder if you can find these in any game in Indiana history. The first one is obvious. Lamar Wilkerson, 1.83 points per minute today with his 44 points on 24 minutes. That's got to be some kind of record, for a guy who scored at least 20 points. That's an amazing number.
It's got to be a top 3 greatest offensive performance in Indiana history. And I'm not just talking at Assembly Hall where he set the record, but Rail had 56 in a game or two and all of that. But the efficiency takes it to another level for me.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yes. The other one is, how many times do you think Indiana has scored 113 points in a game with 2 starters combining for 2 points? I mean, Alexis and Enright combined for 2 points, and Indiana still scores 113 points. To your point about the depth, Ryan.
Yeah.
So that, obviously you'd like to see a guy like Sam Alexis have a better game. Obviously, Enright, you're going to have games where he can still be productive as he was tonight. He still had 8 assists with those 2 points. So, seeing Alexis,
he's always playing defense. So,
yeah. So seeing Alexis maybe not really take advantage of that starting minutes, maybe kind of the one, bad thing about this game. But to score 113 when you have 2 of your starters only getting 2 is, it's just a remarkable offensive performance all the way around, and one, probably one of the most anomalous box scores you'll ever see, in Indiana history, just with all these, crazy numbers.
The only guy who shot below 50% on the roster from the field was Trent Sisley, 1 for 4. Everybody else shot 50% or better from the field. That's unbelievable. And they also shot 70.4% in the second half. After blowing them out in the first half, they're even better in the second half. Shot 62% from 3 in the second.
Oh, I was wrong about the 2-point shooting. Also, it was 25 of 30. They only missed 5. So sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for misleading everyone. The other thing that's funny is if you look, I just went to KenPom and looked at the single game offensive ratings. Wilkerson was somehow not the best offensive rating of anyone on the team. It was actually Reed Bailey. His offensive rating for the game was 183 because he played 21 minutes, scored 18 points, was perfect from the field and the free throw line. So
give him the game ball.
Yeah. So anyway, we touched on this earlier. The assist numbers were crazy and really crazy when you juxtapose those with what Penn State had. So IU had 30 assists on 42 makes. Penn State finished the game with 6 assists for the game, and they had 0 until very late in the first half.
Yeah.
I had just written it down, and then they mentioned on the broadcast, and then they had one right after that. So 30 assists to 10 turnovers for IU versus 6 assists and 14 turnovers for Penn State.
And as you noted, Andy, they're a team that doesn't turn the ball over, and they turned over 14 times. So
yeah. Offensive rebounding, they got 3 offensive rebounds, I think, before the first media timeout, and had 5 second chance points. They only ended up with 5 offensive rebounds the remainder of the game. That was really one of the only areas that IU got outscored was on second chance points, but that was just because they refused to miss to require to have second chance points even be needed. But points off turnovers, IU 26-12, 38-29 bench points, 42-36 points in the paint. Fast break points, won that by 2, had 8 steals. Really just, you can look up and down and feel pretty good about just about anything you look at. Enright with 8 assists to lead the team, but Connor Way had 7, DeVries had 6, so that was spread out across a number of guys. And as you said, Ryan Sisley led him in rebounding with 8. So, as you would expect in the game where you scored 113 points, a lot of positive numbers to focus on.
Well, and this is always a fun one. The plus minus in a game like this is always hilarious. It's the highest I think I've ever seen, which is Tucker DeVries was plus 45 for the game. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And Wilkerson, as funny as it is, Wilkerson in 24 minutes was only plus 24, but he was by far the best player. So it's a flawed stat, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, what are you going to do?
45 is I've never seen it that high before.
That's pretty good. Pretty good, I'd say. So
yeah.
All right. Well, in what might be the least dramatic segment that we have, when we come back on the assembly call, we're going to hand out our game ball for this one. So maybe some intrigue for the Hoosier Hustle Award, but not for the game ball. So we'll do that. We'll look ahead to a big matchup on Saturday at Kentucky, and we'll wrap things up here as it gets late here, at least in the Eastern time zone. So we'll hit all that next year on the assembly call. Stick with us.
All right. Let's find another segment 3 intro. Here's an appropriate one.
Hi, this is James Blackman Jr. I never miss an open 3, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call. Go Hoosiers.
All right. Welcome back to the Assembly Call. I'm here with Ryan Phillips and Jerod Morris, and we are putting the finishing touches on breaking down IU's 113-72 victory over Penn State to move them to 1-1 in these early Big Ten games. And it is now time for our game balls, which are presented by our friends Allie and James at Bloom Environmental. At Bloom Environmental, they provide expert radon, mold, asbestos, and crawl space solutions to protect homes and improve indoor air quality. Call them today for a free estimate and mention Assembly Call and get 10% off your system. You can learn more about them at www.bloomenviro.com. All right. Well, game balls, guys. I think it'd be pretty easy, and perhaps in the sake of time, we can probably skip through this pretty quickly. But any lingering Lamar Wilkerson thoughts that you want to share as we crown him with the game ball from this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had an easier job in my life than picking this game ball, and I once spent a summer getting paid $100 a day to type 1 and 0 on a computer and alternate them. That was it. That was the job. And so this is much easier than that. It was just an unbelievable performance. I think he was scoring at all 3 levels. The threes were obviously the thing, but the back cutting, the driving, like he just did everything and just was absolutely on fire. And to have the ball in his hands as much as he did and only 1 turnover, I mean, that gets overshadowed by the points, but 4 assists too. I mean, it was phenomenal. And I'll say it again. I think it's probably at least the top 3 offensive performance in Indiana basketball history. I mean, just for the efficiency alone.
Well, that'd be really interesting to research. I mean,
Yeah.
The stakes of the game probably matter a little bit.
Of
This
course.
is just kind of a
Yeah.
random
That's
regular
fair.
season game, but in terms of just raw numbers and efficiency, it's hard to find anything that competes with it. That's for sure. I'm going to zag a little bit here. Still giving the game ball to Lamar Wilkerson.
Okay.
But I just want to mention a couple things about his performance that may go a little underrated. One is the 3 steals, which is something he's really showing more now than he showed at Sam Houston State. His steal percentage now 3.3%, which is
Mm-hmm.
much higher than 1.8, 1.7 at Sam Houston State. So he's almost doubled that. So really kind of showing that aggressiveness on defense. And look, we've been so starved for shooters that we believe in. And I love seeing his consistency. Last year at Sam Houston State, on 226 attempts, he shot 43.4% from 3-point range. So far this year, on 81 attempts, he's at 43.2% from 3-point range. So across his last 300 and some attempts, he's right there at 43%, which is James Blackman Jr., Jordan Hulls, Christian Watford territory. That's where those guys, used to shoot. And just having a guy like that can have nights like this is just fun as a basketball fan. And we've said that word a lot this season. Now, the Louisville game wasn't fun and the Minnesota game wasn't fun, but there have been a lot of fun moments with this team already because that ability to shoot, is pretty fundamental to the game, and it's nice to have it back in the program. So just huge tip of the cap to Lamar Wilkerson, who obviously has, had a few ups and downs here recently, but man, he came ready to play. And it was nice to see the team. Well, nice to see from what you guys have said and looking at the box score. I want to go watch it, but nice to see the team kind of rally around him and realize, hey, this guy's got the hot hand, feed him, let's keep going back to this. And And they did, and he delivered, and Penn State just absolutely had no answer.
Yeah, I'll just touch briefly. The defensive part that you talked about is one of the things that I think has really been surprising to me is, he plays hard on that end of the floor. He's not a perfect defender by any means, but he's willing to take on some of the bigger challenges. And even in this one with Mingo for Penn State, I think it was when Enright was already out with 2 fouls, and then I think Conaway just was getting a rest, and so they put Wilkerson on him to be able to try to be disruptive and give him a different look. He's got good enough size to be able to do some of those things. So I think for a guy that IU leans on and looks for a lot offensively, I think he's been more than what they would have anticipated on the defensive end. I think credit goes to him for that, but also for Darren DeVries for really getting him to buy into what needs to be done on that end of the floor, and have been pretty impressed there. So that is his second game ball of the season. One could argue a game like this maybe should count for more than one, but it only counts for one. So he is now tied with Tate and Conaway behind Darren DeVries for the lead. DeVries has 4 and Conaway and Wilkerson with 2 apiece. All right, now for one that maybe a little more intrigue to it. So Ryan, I'll throw it to you first for Hoosier Hustle Award. Again, a number of potentially worthy candidates here as well. So I'll get your thoughts first here, and then Jerod, you can let us know if you want to jump in or if you feel that not having watched part of the game you don't want to.
I watched the part of the game that was competitive, so I feel somewhat qualified.
First 3 minutes.
All right, good enough. Good enough. All right, Ryan.
I'm going to give it to Tate and Conaway. I think that, he had 2 steals. I thought he played really aggressively defensively, and I thought that kind of set the tone. Also really did a good job with breaking the token pressure that Penn State put on early. But, wound up with 7 assists as well, 3 rebounds, the 2 steals, and had 17 points. And I think that, I just think that he, his effort and energy, I think is going to be a key for Indiana all year. And I thought he showed that tonight too.
All right, Jerod, what about you?
I was going to go with Conaway. I'll also just kind of toss in an honorable mention to Reed Bailey, who in the time, I was watching play really seemed more aggressive than we've seen from him, which was nice to see. Did a decent job on the glass. So I'll toss in a just honorable mention for him, but I'll go with Ryan with Conaway.
Yeah, Conaway is the way that I was going to go as well. Just thought, kind of all around contributions, being aggressive, picking his spots, when to drive, continuing to shoot the 3 a little bit better than what he had before. Made both of his 3-pointers tonight in the first half, and then 7 assists, a couple steals, and all that in 25 minutes. 17 points, 7 assists in 25 minutes is pretty good. Although Enright only played 20 minutes and had 8 assists, so good efficiency game for everyone involved. That is Conaway's second Hoosier Hustle Award. So he is now in a logjam. Enright's got 3, and then Alexis, Wilkerson, and Sisley are all tied with Conaway behind him with 2. So a good balanced leaderboard on the Hoosier Hustle season totals. All right, so big game coming up on Saturday at Kentucky. I think it's 7:30 is the tip time. Believe Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley are going to be on the call, if I remember seeing that correctly a little bit ago. So that could be interesting. But I guess, Barkley wants to do a couple games with Vitale over the course of the year. So they announced them. I forget what the other one was, but this was one of them. So should add an interesting layer of things to that. Kentucky comes in. They won tonight. They played NC Central. They're 6-4 now on the season. None of the 4 losses from in terms of teams that they've played are bad losses by any means. They've lost at Louisville, to Michigan State on a neutral floor, to Gonzaga on a neutral floor. They took a pay. Well, I guess their game was Friday, but they got off to a pretty similar start against Gonzaga as to what IU did against Louisville over the weekend, and they lost to North Carolina at home. So, they haven't lost any bad games yet, but have struggled against the better competition that they have played. Have had some injury issues. I know the couple, some of the folks that I know around here who are Kentucky fans think they may not win another big game over the rest of the season. I think IU fans probably felt the same way after the Louisville game, so probably feel a little bit better tonight. But an interesting game between these two teams where neither team's fan base probably feels overly confident what kind of performance you're going to get when you step in. And I think listen to the Basket Under Review podcast with Eamon Brennan and Tate Frazier today. They talked a little bit about Kentucky, and it just seems like they're really start struggling to kind of put the pieces together that they've assembled on this roster. A lot was made of the money they spent and those kinds of things. And right now, it doesn't seem like it's fitting together all that well. And there have been some definite questions about effort and those kinds of things. So be curious to see what they look like as they turn around and do that. It's a pretty important game for them if they want to do much in the non-conference. They've got this IU game, and then the following Saturday they play St. John's as Patino. They play Patino, so a big game there. So they really need to win one of these of their better non-conference games, and will have a home game to do so. So Ken Palm right now projects Kentucky to win by 4, 78-74. They're currently ranked 20th as you look at them. So pretty even mix of offense and defense, but they've not shot the three particularly well this year compared to what they did last year. And at least with some of the folks that I've talked to are big fans of the team, is that they maybe are better defensively this year than they were a year ago, but they're not nearly as good offensively. And so Pope kind of maybe swinging the pendulum a little bit too far the other way as they try to figure things out, but certainly will be a tough chance for IU. As I said, are dealing with some injuries. Jalen Lowe, their point guard, sounds like he played a little bit tonight. He's been in and out with a shoulder issue. And so be interesting to see. Otega Owe had a really great season last year, has struggled a lot this year, but a big-bodied guy that it could be a little tough for IU, a big-bodied wing like 6'4", but so, what can the likes of Conaway and Wilkerson try to do with him defensively, or is that somebody that maybe they put, end right on? Denzel Aberdeen's been, had some big scoring games for them. He transferred from Florida. And then Colin Chandler is the best 3-point shooter that they've got. And they got some younger bigs that they're trying to work in the mix. So, we'll see. They're long and athletic. I think the kind of thing that could give IU problems if they really get into IU defensively. So it should be a interesting game, one that would certainly be not a bad loss for IU if you lose it, but a great opportunity to win against a team that maybe is coming into the game without a ton of confidence for that. But anything
it's
to add?
Kentucky, it would be a bad loss. The rivalry is back.
Yes,
they're all
indeed.
Any loss.
Indeed.
But think about this to put this game into context. Like, obviously, Indiana, Kentucky, neither team, I don't think anybody would consider them great. But this is still, Kentucky's ranked 20th in Ken Palm right now. Indiana's ranked 21st. I mean, these are still good teams. It's the first time this game has been played in a long time. It's at night. It just feels like we've been waiting for this game for so long. And it will be the second most important Indiana sporting event happening that night, because something football related will be more important than the Indiana-Kentucky game. Like, I just don't even understand this timeline that we're living in. Of course, that is the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy presentation is this week, right? Isn't it Saturday night?
Saturday night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where we certainly hope and expect that Fernando Mendoza will give Indiana its first Heisman Trophy since Anthony Thompson's was stolen from him in 1987 because we missed a field goal against Purdue that would have sent us to a bowl game. I don't harbor any lingering feelings about that. But anyway, it'll be nice to see the Heisman Trophy in Bloomington if it happens, knock on wood. But what a night, Saturday night for Indiana sports.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I want to mention on the Kentucky thing, I'd really like to have a winning streak, because the last time Indiana Kentucky played, Indiana won, right? It was 2016.
Yeah, and
in Sweet 16.
No, when Thomas Bryant was there, they beat him.
Oh, that's right.
In the Sweet 16.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You're right.
So-
2016. Sorry, I was thinking about 2012.
So let's make it a winning streak, guys.
You're right. Let's do it.
There you go.
Yeah, good call.
Perfect
Good call.
stuff. No, should be a good game. It'll be interesting to see how Kentucky comes in. I think they probably needed a get right game similar to what IU needed coming in. It seemed like they got that tonight. So we shall see. All right. With that, we will remind you to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel. You can use the promo code HOME23 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And with that, it is time for last call, which by request, perhaps we'll make our last call. Any lingering thoughts on the Big Ten championship game? I think we probably said all there is to say about this game tonight. Obviously, great for IU to get back in the win column. Big for them to go into this Kentucky game with some confidence, and hopefully they can build on this momentum as they've got that, a couple other bye games, and then a little bit of time off before they get into the meat of the Big Ten schedule. So good to get back on the winning side of things. Amazing performance from Lamar Wilkerson. So we'll kind of use that as our wrap up for that. But Ryan, I'll throw it to you first, just for thoughts on the Big Ten championship as we use that to wrap things up here.
Our fellow back home network star Trisha Whitaker, and she's a star of a lot of other things as well, but she posted that her first year covering sports was the Indiana went 1-11, and who can forget the Kevin Wilson days? But it's just, since I stepped on campus in 2003, this program has been largely, I mean, there are good players that came through and there were some successes there and all that, but in general, it's kind of been a joke. And what has happened over the last years is unbelievable. And so Saturday night, I went into that game thinking, I know what Ohio State is. They are one of the most talented college football teams you will ever see if you're looking at star rankings and recruiting and all of that, just across the board, loaded with talent. And I said, I told my girlfriend, I'm like, you know what? They lose. I just wanted to play a really tight game. Maybe they win it late, but keep it close and see what happens. And watching them win, I didn't know how to react because I didn't expect it. And I think that I'm not conditioned enough to expect Indiana to win big time college football games. I know they've done it over the last 2 years and they've won big games and they played really well. And Cignetti is a genius. I think he's the best coach in college basketball or college football, bar none.
Might be the best coach in college basketball too.
If he tried, but I do think he's the best. I think this is the greatest college coaching job ever. I like, Nick Saban having a run. He was doing that at Alabama with all these resources. I mean, you don't take anything away from that. Pete Carroll at USC but what he has done, taking the worst Power 4 program, Power 5, Power 4 program, and turning it into this is insane. It doesn't feel real. And so it didn't feel real until they won that game the other night. And I was sitting watching it with my parents and my girlfriend, and she just looked over at me. She's like, "You're not even celebrating." I'm like, "Cause I don't know how. I don't know how to celebrate having a good football team at Indiana. I don't." And so
I think pouting because it wasn't USC.
Oh no, that's not true. I can root for both on parallel paths. But
yeah, how many Big Ten championships does USC have, Ryan?
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Well, they're such a classic Big Ten team. I mean, but I genuinely, it's unbelievable, and I'm sure Jerod, with as close to the football team as your family and you have been for your whole life, like I want to know how you felt about it, because you were very confident, by the way, in our texts.
Yes,
you were very confident.
I thought we were going to win the game. It was incredible. By the way, you're right. I was wrong on the Anthony Thompson thing. It was 1989 that the Heisman got robbed.
I only know because I wrote about it earlier today.
And of course, the year before that was the last time we beat Ohio State, famously. 1988. I was 7 years old. My dad was, on that staff. They'd beaten them back to back.
Darkest day too.
Yeah, darkest day, and then just absolutely kicked their butt that next season. And I was listening to the Mind Your Banners podcast, and Zach Osterman was talking about how, for longtime Indiana fans, there was something so special about the way this happened, right? Like there was a potential path where it's like, okay, you back into a Big Ten title game and you get there and you're facing an opponent that's just okay and you beat them and you win the Big Ten title, and that would have been amazing and cathartic.
Yeah, like facing Iowa or something. Yeah,
but breaking the streak against Ohio State with the stakes that high, with them that good,
defending national champions,
a big part of why it was so special. It's the Big Ten title, it's all that stuff, it's the number one seed, but it's beating them. And I think the other thing about it is it wasn't fluky. They didn't turn it over 5 times. There weren't weird bounces. We kicked their ass in the second half. I mean, not kicked their ass. It was a close game, but I thought we were more physical. Like, I thought we dictated the game more. We made more plays than they did. We were more poised. I thought we were better coached. And seeing that and walking away just being like, yeah, we were the best team on this field was amazing. And I will say, Indiana football has been a joke for a long time. I mean, losing his program, all this stuff, which I've been explaining to so many people around here, like, why is this so meaningful? It's like, you don't understand. You don't understand how bad Indiana football has been. Okay. But there've been moments. Obviously, the Mallory era is something, my family is very proud of. Nothing on this level, of course. But, you mentioned Kevin Wilson. And I think the one thing the turnaround under Cignetti has been amazing in 2 years. There's no question about it. I do think it's getting a little bit lost in the shuffle, the slow build to get here, which actually I do think started under Kevin Wilson, where even though Indiana still wasn't winning a lot of games back then, we started to get that reputation for chaos team and at least being competitive, right? And like we would play some of these close games against Ohio State, and it was like, all right, well, at least Indiana football is kind of interesting. And then Tom Allen comes around, and for as silly as LEO was, at least for a little while there was a brand, and we actually had a decent season, and it's like, and resources started to come in. And then obviously Scott Dolson doubling down on football and making this hire just shot everything, into the stratosphere. But I do think there were a lot of steps along the way that helped lay the foundation for a coach like Curt Cignetti to come in and say, I think I can paint my masterpiece here. And my God, has he, and just done it to levels that are just unfathomable. And so, to have that feeling where you just have full trust in your coach, it's what I used to feel like as an IU basketball fan, where it's just like, I know going into this game, we're going to be well prepared. We're going to have a great chance to win. And if the players go out and execute and make plays and nothing fluky happens, we're going to win this game. That's how you feel now as an IU football fan. That's how you used to feel as an IU basketball fan. So it was incredible. It was awesome. My neighbor across the street's a big Missouri fan, but he's really gotten into Indiana. And so as soon as the game's over, he's calling me. He's like, we got to do celebratory shots. So we went over to his house and we're taking shots and watching the Mendoza interview, and just everything about this program, the players, the character, the togetherness, the style, it's all perfect.
It's a dream.
The record is like, and I'll tell you, I mean, most of you who are listening to this have probably listened to the most recent Crimson Cast episode with Galen and Scott. It's a top 5 episode in the history of the Back Home Network, not just because of the subject matter, but I thought the way that those two guys captured the moment, the emotion of it, the catharsis of it. And I'm so happy for them, for all the crappy IU football games they've talked about, and they've stuck with it. And Galen's been to every game, like they put their money where their mouth is and their time. And so to see wins for people like them and for Don Fisher and just the people who have been much, much more so than me, who have stuck with this program game by game by game, year in, year out. It's amazing. It's amazing, and it's deserved. And I think that's what's so great about this is it's come out of nowhere, but it's so deserved for this fan base, and for all the work that went into it. So you can't say enough words about it. And that moment, no matter what happens from here on out, we will always have that moment of beating Ohio State, winning that Big Ten, and feeling what it's like, to be a football champion. And man, to be able to say that as an Indiana football fan is just, they're words I never thought were going to come out of my mouth. And they're amazing.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Crimson Cast stuff, especially when it got to be, I don't know, it was the last like 15, 20 minutes when they really got into, some of the bigger picture stuff and like what it really meant and things like that. So certainly if anybody hasn't listened to that, I listened to that part twice. I went back and listened to it again. I played it for my wife just because it made me think of other things that she and I have talked about with the team and things like that. I mean, for me, IU football has always been the thing that like that thing that you just like irrationally love, even though it never gives you anything back or very rarely has given you anything back. But, as I think we talked about on here, before when we moved to Indianapolis, my dad was like, well, let's get football tickets to IU. And it was Mallory's first year when they didn't win a game, and we got 2 tickets, and he would alternate taking my mom and I, and we both like, despite that, just loved it and wanted to go back. So we had 3 tickets, and I mean, they had season tickets for probably 30 plus years. I forget when I was trying to ask my mom, she remembered when they stopped going. And that was even when, they were living in Northeast Ohio. It was a, 7-hour drive to go, and they would go, or, and even when we lived in Cleveland, we would go, but it was always just that thing that like, you never got much back from it, but just like couldn't stay away from it of like, I would always say, I'm not even going to watch. And then I would watch something and get sucked into some of these like chaos team games and be like, why did I do this? What did I do this for? And it's just been an incredible, what Cignetti has done with the program. I think the kinds of people that he's brought in, from the coaches to the players, and I've seen more and more about that come through, is just whatever they're doing from a talent and character evaluation standpoint is the secret sauce in so many ways. And you watch these guys. I know Coach had he tweeted about the Mendoza press conference, just what a great representative he was. And you just go down the list of all these guys that they talked to. And I stayed up and watched, the different guys they had on the set of the Big Ten Network, whether it was Aiden Fisher or Pat Coogan or Carter Smith or Charlie Becker, all these guys just, great representative, just seemed like great people. And so the way they've been able to do that is what's been, anybody can go through a money run. We see this in college basketball all the time. And then it's trying to figure out, how does this all fit together? Anybody can do that. Well, not anybody, but there's plenty of schools who can do that. But being able to do it as effectively as they have really requires the kind of finding the right guys who are, the misfits and some of those kinds of things that the guys have talked about with that of just finding the right place and the right scheme, and the belief that they've built has been nothing short of amazing. And so, we had just ended up watching at home. It's one of those where it's like, well, you get the tuition bill for college the same week that you think like, well, is it worth spending $600 to get into a game? And I wouldn't want to go by myself. So then it's however much. And so, watched it here. Although I ended up on Sunday about as hoarse as I might have been had I gone to the game from yelling
that tracks, knowing you, Andy.
various things and obscenities here. So not, maybe at times was maybe not the greatest role model for my daughter, but anyway, and I guess I'll end my thoughts on this. The part that Galen talked about with his dad, being the one who like got him into it. And I thought the same thing. And that was like the time that I started to cry after the game, is because I was like, man, I just wish he could see this. Yeah. And just know how much joy this team would have brought him. And it still does my mom, and, talking to her on the phone after the game and all of those things. It's just like, but that's really where my love of it was born. And I was thinking about that this week. I was like, there's probably not too many places I spent more time with him than in the parking lot of Memorial Stadium. And doing those things, and just what an incredible, what an incredible thing. And so it makes you think about that. And there's, since he's passed a few years ago, there's probably no time that I feel kind of closer to him, but also miss him more than some of these games, especially when they're good, which they've been far more good ones than bad ones. I know Galen and I have texted about, some of that stuff with them a number of times, and just an awesome day. Not to mention the fact that living here for 25 years and hearing from these people about Ohio State for years and years and years. And, even when they're like, kind of the, patting you on the head of like, well, you guys are playing good, we're going to steamroll you when we get to the, get to the playoffs. And it was like, yeah, I don't need to. So I just wore my home field quarters up to work yesterday. And, that you can get with promo code HOME23 to get 15% off, and just kind of walking, but you don't need to say anything. They knew. So it was just an awesome experience. Can't wait to see what happens next. I know Coach is heading out to Coach and Amy are going to the Rose Bowl, which is
What's
exciting.
Going on?
I don't know.
I will say this. We have a meetup in Bloomington. The weekend of the 17th. The national championship game is that Monday.
I know.
You guys want to extend the stay a couple days just in case? You can always cancel the hotel room.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, we should remind people that we are coming up for the Iowa game, which is the 17th.
We'll be there the Iowa game. We'll figure out. We're gonna do some kind of meetup. Talking to Galen about it too, and
I'm bringing my daughter up. It's gonna be her first IU game.
Amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, that weekend will be it. I mean, like, it's gonna be such a big deal. Like, I mean, if they're still alive, when they're still alive, maybe I'll fly out Tuesday and we'll just hang out, see what happens.
Yeah. Amazing to have these decisions to make,
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? So, all right, cool. Well, I think we'll wrap things up here. It's getting late for me. Too many late nights in a row. Eagles kept me up late last night doing whatever version of football that was.
I'm so mad at them. I am so mad at them. But
no, don't talk about the Eagles. This was a good football show. We don't need to talk about how Jalen Hurts lost me a fantasy game last night. We don't even need to mention it.
Well, yeah, my wife was right there with you. So, it's just him and AJ Brown. And it's like, gets excited when the one ball goes in the end zone and whatever. So anyway, who knows? Just needed Needed Fernando Mendoza and Elijah Surratt out there if you
That's
really want
right.
to be able to win fantasy games or real life games. So and Charlie B from Nashville, Tennessee. So
dude, that guy, man. Holy smokes.
I mean, they're going to need to find another receiver, but I love that guy.
Man, I mean, between that and the OHFU that he got caught on camera doing, I'm like,
didn't his dad play for Ohio State? Wasn't that the thing?
I don't remember. I don't know. I said at one point during the game, I said if Charlie Becker walked in my house right now, I would kiss him on the mouth. I was just like, this is man. So anyway,
offer still stands for you, Charlie.
I don't think anybody needs that, but yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, that'll do it. I don't even know if we need to play the outro, but just in case we want to.
It anyway.
If you want to see us do the live show and be part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall. And don't forget to go to substack.assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for the music here on the show, and special thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logo. And thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU hoops again with you on Saturday night after the Kentucky game. And until then,
take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
I don't like carrots.
this is true.
But he does like
Google
Charlie
me.
Everybody likes Charlie Becker. Has anybody heard about Omar Cooper?
It
seemed like in the presser that Signetti did after that they didn't think it was any kind of long-term.
Yeah, with the 3 weeks
injury.
Off, I'm sure he'll be fine.
Should be good.
I don't think they specified whether it was calf, ankle, whatever it was.
Looked like
he did not seem to think that it was anything.
It looked like something in his upper leg to me. I don't know, but I
feel like they would show him on the sideline. He had like a sleeve on his calf though. That's
what
made
his
me
calf.
think
Okay.
Well, I don't know if that's what. Maybe I misinterpreted that. I don't know, but that's what
they need him. I mean, they'll definitely need him. And then God, the daily thing sucks. But we'll see. I mean, they're deep enough on defense. I feel like he led the Big Ten in tackles for loss, but I feel like they can make up for that.
Yeah. All right. I gotta go. It's late.
Yeah.
We'll end with the Lamar Wilkerson quote that I put in the chat. Hoop looked big as the ocean tonight. Yes, it did, Lamar.
Yeah,
yes.
We know. We know.
I would say so.
He did not need to say that.
Amazing.
All right, guys.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
See you
later.
Bye, guys.